Hi there everyone and welcome back to the ScrapbookPal YouTube channel. I'm Cassie Trask, back with another video tutorial. Today we're going to be making a card using the Sizzix Catherine Pooler greenhouse finds, stamps, and dies. Such cute images, and there are matching dies to go along with it, and there's also a few little extra dies in there that cut things out other than just the images. And then we also have the Sending Sunshine sentiments, so they all perfectly pair up together. And I decided to go through my stash of scraps, and I pulled out a bunch of scraps because I want to stamp all of my images onto the scraps. This is a very easy way to make a fairly quick card and use up those scraps at the same time. So I just picked some colors that I thought would be great that would go together, and then yeah, we're just going to stamp those out onto this cardstock. Now I'm going to use my mini MISTI because some of the papers that I chose have a little bit of texture to them, and so I want to make sure that I stamp those well. I've chosen to ink my images up using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. It's actually a pigment ink, but it stamps out so crisp and black that I decided that this would be the best way for me to get all of those little images stamped. And like I said, I picked out a bunch of scraps, and as you can see, and now oftentimes when I am designing a card, I do have an idea in my head. Obviously, most of us do, right? But I don't always have it like perfectly planned out. So especially when I'm stamping images, I tend to stamp a lot more than what I actually need. And the same thing with die cutting. I will die cut out more images than I really could use. And I can save those for later cards or use them on the inside of my cards. There's always lots of options for that. And so I don't worry about having a bunch of extra images because I prefer that. My plan is to make an A2 size card, and those A2 size cards measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches when they're all closed up. And so, I mean, I think that's a pretty decent amount of space to work with. And so I really didn't anticipate when I was stamping out all these images. I thought they were all just going to go on the front of one card, but it turns out I end up making 2 cards. After everything has been stamped out, I'm going to grab the matching dies that go along with this, and I'm going to tack that down with a little bit of Post-it tape. I'll go through this several times because there are a few images that I stamped more than once. And there are actually, as I mentioned earlier, some of the dies in here will just die cut out extra pieces that you can just use as the regular die cut. You don't have to have a stamp with it because there isn't a stamp to go with it. And now that everything is die cut out, I have this fun pile of all of these images. Some of them are the stamped and die cut. Some of them are just the die cut. So now we are ready to start playing around with placement on the front of a card. And this is where I was kind of just playing around and thinking, okay, we're going to try and see how we can get all these images on here, and forgetting that all of those plants are going to take up a little bit of real estate as well, and wanting to make sure that everything has room for that. There would be really no place for a sentiment. And so it's at this point I was thinking, nope, we're going to go ahead and just make 2 separate cards. I'm going to show you the putting together, the assembly of one card, and we're going to use our Barely Art glue to put everything together. I just have a piece of yellow cardstock. Once again, this is kind of in my scrap stash, and I love going through my scraps and using those up. It just feels good. I don't know, when I use things up, I do love to collect, but I also love to use things up that I feel very satisfied when things get used up. So like this piece, I did put glue just on the edges. I didn't put it at the top, so that way I could tuck some of the plants inside of our pots. And I love these little scenes coming together. So we're just putting a few little plants inside there. And then we've got our little tools hanging down below, a little flower by the pot. We'll put our watering can on this side, and I was thinking we need to put one of those seed packets sticking out, and it wasn't very stable, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the watering can down and then stick the seed packet inside, and then we'll put our other seed packet on the side of our watering can. And then because I do have a few extra pieces, we're going to put one of those extra little stems just sitting up there on top, almost like it's drying out. And then this is where I need to decide what sentiment I want to use. So I'm going to trim off the excess, and then I'll bring in one of the sentiments. And again, I've gone to all this work putting everything down, so I want to make sure that I stamp that out well. So I'm going to bring in that mini MISTI one more time. And then this way we can make sure that we stamp that sentiment nice and dark. So I'll stamp it a couple times. Hope your birthday is full of sunshine. What a sweet sentiment. And then I have another piece of cardstock that measures slightly bigger than this. So that yellow piece was 4 inches by 5 1/4. And our rose red color is about 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So the full front of an A2 size card. And I will bring in a white card base, and that measures 5 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches, scored at 4 1/4. And then we can just take our card panel using that same Bearly Art glue, and we can go ahead and just glue that down to the front of our card base. Now, as I said, I have extra pieces, so I oftentimes like to take those extra pieces and see what I can do with them on the inside of the card. I love kind of bringing the outside to the inside, and so I had made 3 shelves, so I'm just going to use part of one of these shelves, and we'll just glue that up to the top, trying to make sure that's fairly straight, and then we can glue our little, I don't know what kind of plant that would be, but let that, like it's drying, we'll put the little bow on it, and then I'll add that one last little flower. I do have a few extra pieces we won't end up using, but I think I did pretty well. And then that's actually going to finish off this card. Here's the second card I made because I had so many images stamped out. I'm just so happy with how both of these turned out. I hope you like them too. If you do, be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that ScrapbookPal has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.